Hey there, can we talk about our food? It's fundamental to our lives, yet we rarely give it a second thought. We have been brought up to believe that fruits and vegetables are inherently good for us, but I wonder if it really is that simple anymore. Lately, I have been looking at the food I eat with a new sense of curiosity, and maybe a little bit of concern. It is the subtle details that can feel a bit off, a bit strange. It is about starting a conversation about what we are putting into our bodies. It is about understanding the journey our food takes before it reaches us. A significant portion of what we eat today is not the same as the food our grandparents ate. So I invite you to join me on this little exploration. What is really in our food? Where does it come from? And most importantly, is it truly nourishing us in the way that nature intended? It's time we really knew what we were eating. Have you ever noticed how perfect supermarket produce looks? Is that natural? This perfection is not an accident. It is the result of genetic modification, or GMOs. The food's DNA has been deliberately altered in a laboratory. The main driver is economics, creating crops that are more profitable for large agricultural corporations. So, when we see these unnaturally perfect foods, we are essentially looking at lab experiments. We are consuming organisms that have been reprogrammed at a genetic level to serve a corporate agenda. This is the wild reality of our modern food supply. What does natural even mean in the 21st century? We see it plastered all over food packaging. But when the very DNA of a plant has been edited in a lab, can we honestly call it natural? The most unsettling part is the sheer number of unknowns. We are, in essence, part of a massive, global, long-term experiment. We simply do not have the conclusive long-term data to know the effects they might have on our bodies over a lifetime. Animal studies serve as a critical warning sign. Many of these plants are specifically engineered to withstand powerful herbicides, most notably glyphosate. The World Health Organization has classified glyphosate as probably carcinogenic to humans. The questions just keep piling up. So, what exactly is a GMO? It's a genetically modified organism, any living thing whose DNA has been altered in a way that doesn't happen naturally. Scientists can take DNA from one organism and insert it into another, even from different species. Unlike traditional breeding, this allows combinations that would never occur in nature. For example, a gene from soil bacteria can be inserted into corn to produce its own pesticide. This ability to cut and paste genes is what makes GMO technology so powerful and controversial. It's a precise intervention that rewrites the code of life to create novel organisms. Understanding this is the first step to discussing whether these organisms belong in our food and environment. If this technology is so radical, you might be wondering why we are using it at all. What is the driving force behind creating these genetically modified foods? The companies that develop GMOs will often tell you it's about solving world hunger and creating a more sustainable food supply for a growing global population. They talk about creating crops that can withstand harsh conditions like drought or floods, or crops that are more nutritious, like golden rice, which was engineered to contain more vitamin A. On the surface, these goals sound incredibly noble and beneficial for humanity, and it's an appealing story that is easy for people to get behind. However, if you dig a little deeper and follow the money, a different picture starts to emerge. The vast majority of GMO crops grown around the world today have not been engineered for consumer benefits like better nutrition or for humanitarian purposes. Instead, they have been designed for two main commercial traits. The first is herbicide tolerance. This means the crop, like soy or corn, has been modified to survive being sprayed with powerful weed killers, most famously glyphosate. This makes farming easier and more efficient for large-scale industrial farms, as they can douse their entire fields with chemicals to kill weeds without killing their cash crop. It's a system designed for convenience and profit. The second major trait is pesticide production. In this case, crops are engineered to produce their own insecticide. A gene is inserted that causes the plant to create a toxin that is poisonous to certain insects. When a pest, like the corn borer, takes a bite of the plant, it dies. This is known as a beet crop, named after the bacterium, Bacillus thuringiensis, from which the toxin-producing gene is taken. Again, the goal here is to protect the crop and maximize the harvest, reducing the need for farmers to spray external pesticides. The plant itself has become the pesticide. This is a huge commercial advantage for the seed companies. So, while the public narrative often focuses on feeding the world, The reality on the ground is that the primary motivation has been to create crops that fit into a specific model of industrial agriculture. This model is built around chemical inputs and large-scale monocultures, where endless fields are planted with a single, uniform crop. These engineered traits, herbicide tolerance and pesticide production, directly serve this model, and, in turn, generate enormous profits for the handful of giant agrochemical corporations that own the patents to both the seeds and the chemicals they are designed to be used with. The primary beneficiary is not the consumer, but the corporation. It's really important to draw a clear line between the genetic engineering we've been talking about and the traditional breeding methods that have been the foundation of agriculture for millennia. Sometimes, people who support GMOs will say that humans have been modifying plants and animals for centuries, and that this is just a more modern, efficient way of doing the same thing. But this comparison is misleading, because the two processes are fundamentally worlds apart. Traditional plant breeding is a patient art. It's about working with nature, guided by observation and a deep understanding of the plants themselves. It respects the natural reproductive boundaries between species. For example, a traditional farmer might cross two different varieties of apple to try and create a new one that is both crisp and sweet. This is something that could, theoretically, happen in nature without human help. It's a process of selection, not invention. The farmer is working with the genetic material that already exists within the apple species. They are shuffling the existing deck of cards, hoping for a better hand. It is a slow, gradual process that unfolds over many generations of plants, allowing the ecosystem to adapt alongside it. There are no surprise insertions of foreign DNA from completely unrelated life forms like bacteria or viruses. Genetic engineering, on the other hand, is a completely different ballgame. It is a direct, invasive, and immediate process that takes place in a sterile lab. It forcefully breaches the natural barriers that separate species, creating combinations of genes that would never have been possible in the natural world. It's not about shuffling the existing deck of cards. It's about taking a card from a completely different